He entered the party burning with rage, ready to destroy whoever betrayed him, until she walked in, his ex-wife, holding a newborn with his blue eyes. Now, every secret he buried is coming back to kill him. And this time, love might be the deadliest bullet of all. Lucas King entered the grand ballroom. Every eye in the room shifted instantly. He was a storm in human form. The tailored black suit hid nothing. The calm in his gaze promised violence. He moved like a shadow across the marble floor. Conversations froze mid-sentence. Glasses paused halfway to lips. The Chicago elite sensed it. Someone was about to die. Lucas's jaw was tight. His mind traced the leaks, the betrayals, the traitors. Someone had sold his syndicate's secrets. Someone had dared to cross him. Tonight, he would find out who. The chandeliers glittered above him. The gold and crystal reflected 1,000 eyes, all on him. But Lucas didn't see them. His focus was sharp, predatory. Every muscle was tension. Every step measured. Music played softly, but it didn't reach him. The laughter around him was background noise. The clinking of champagne glasses was meaningless. Every heartbeat in the room thudded in rhythm with his own. He scanned the crowd. Faces were masks. Smiles hid fear. Eyes hid loyalty. He could read the lies in seconds. Every glance, every posture spoke volumes. Lucas walked toward the center. A waiter stepped aside, trembling. He noticed it. The fear, the respect, the awe. It fueled him. He paused near the staircase. His coat brushed the velvet carpet. He felt the weight of the room shift. Power hummed around him like electricity. He could taste the tension. Then the ballroom doors opened. A hush fell instantly. All conversations died. The music seemed to stop. Every eye turned. She walked in. Emma, the woman he had left 4 months after their wedding. The woman he had betrayed for wealth, for power. The woman whose name haunted him in every quiet moment. She wore pale silk. It hugged her form, but not provocatively. It spoke of elegance and resilience. She carried herself like a queen. But there was pain in her eyes, a fire in her posture, a warning in her steps, and in her arms. A newborn, a tiny human with eyes so blue, so piercing, that Lucas felt his chest tighten. He stepped closer without thinking. The crowd parted instinctively. His heart hammered. Every muscle tensed. Every nerve screamed. He had imagined this moment 1,000 times. Not like this. Not with a child in her arms. The baby's eyes were his, the same blue, the same intensity. And in that instant, the past hit him like a bullet. All the nights he spent chasing power, all the promises he broke, all the love he abandoned. The room felt smaller suddenly. The chandeliers shrank. The music blurred into static. All he could see was her. All he could see was the baby. She didn't look at him with longing. She looked at him with steel, with warning, with judgment, and it cut deeper than any knife. Lucas's pulse raced. His mind tried to organize, to plan, to react, but the shock held him frozen. She walked slowly, measured, every step deliberate. The baby pressed closer to her chest. He noticed the way she held it, protective, loving, fierce. The crowd whispered. Rumors began to spread in seconds. This is Lucas King's ex-wife? She has a child. Is that his? Lucas's teeth clenched. He didn't respond. He didn't move. He couldn't. Her eyes locked on his. Cold, unforgiving. A storm in herself. He remembered those eyes. Remembered the nights they held each other. The promises whispered. The dreams shared. He swallowed hard. The past and the present collided. Regret slammed into him with every heartbeat. Pain, anger, love, all tangled together. He remembered leaving her when she needed him, choosing wealth over her, over them. And now, she had a life he had nothing to do with. The whispers of the crowd faded. He heard only her heartbeat. He heard the baby's soft cries. Every instinct told him to move, to reach for them, to claim what he lost. But he didn't. He couldn't. Not yet. She stopped in the center. The light hit her face. The baby stirred. He saw a small yawn, a tiny hand stretching, and his chest ached with longing he hadn't felt in years. The chandeliers reflected in her eyes. The crowd faded away. The room disappeared. Time slowed. Lucas whispered to himself, barely audible. "Mine." The word hung in the air. A question, a challenge, a confession. And then it happened. The lights cut out. The chandeliers went dark. The music stopped. The crowd gasped. Screams echoed. He couldn't see her. He couldn't see the baby. The room was swallowed by darkness. Every sense sharpened. Every nerve screamed. He could hear breathing. Fast, sharp, tense. Something moved in the shadows. Lucas's hands clenched. His mind raced. This was no accident. Someone wanted him to panic. Someone wanted him off balance. He reached forward blindly. The baby cried again. Emma's voice, low and steady, cut through the dark. "You shouldn't have come, Lucas." And then, a faint click. A gun cocking somewhere in the black. He froze. The sound echoed louder than any explosion. The darkness pressed against him like a physical weight. He could hear whispers, schemes, threats, lies. A single thought pierced through the fear. He had to protect them. Her, the child, their future. But the darkness didn't move. It waited, testing him, watching him. Lucas's pulse thundered in his ears. The calm he wore like armor was gone. His mind spun. Plans, strategies, retaliation, survival. Then, from somewhere deep in the hall, a small, deliberate sound. A footstep. Not many. Just one. He reached out. The crowd was shadows. The music was gone. The chandeliers were dead stars above. And then he felt it. A presence. Close. Dangerous. Calculated. The air thickened. The darkness pressed closer. He could barely breathe. Lucas's heart froze. He whispered again, "Mine!" And then, a single scream. The lights flickered back on. The ballroom was chaos. Glasses shattered. People stumbled. And she was there, Emma. But she wasn't where he expected. She had vanished. The baby's cry echoed from somewhere else. He strained to see, to understand. But the room was alive with confusion. And in that moment, Lucas understood one truth. This night would change everything. The traitor was here. The danger was close. And the woman he left behind was no longer the one he knew. Lucas's eyes scanned the chaos. He whispered, teeth tight, voice sharp as a blade, "I will find you, and I will not fail." The first shot ripped through the air. The grand ballroom, once a haven of glittering lights and laughter, became a cage of terror. Glass exploded in slow motion, glittering like deadly rain. Screams pierced the air, sharp and chaotic. Lucas's heart hit a thunderous pace. Years of training, instinct, and survival sharpened his reflexes. He moved without thought. He threw himself over Emma, shielding her fragile frame. The baby's wail tore through the din. The sound cracked something inside him. Raw, unfiltered fear. Every muscle was coiled like a spring. He scanned the shadows. Every chandelier glint, every moving shape was a potential threat. Adrenaline burned through his veins. His mind was a map of survival, calculating, anticipating, predicting. Emma's chest pressed against his back. She trembled, but she did not scream. Her hand rested lightly on the baby, steady despite the chaos. For a moment, he glimpsed the woman he once knew. Strong, defiant, untouchable. The gunfire stopped. Silence fell like a heavy curtain. The room smelled of smoke, fear, and shattered crystal. The crowd froze. Every pair of eyes was wide, searching. No one moved. Lucas's gaze found a small object on the marble floor, a shell casing. He bent to pick it up. The serpent curled around a crown gleamed in the dim light. His blood ran cold. This was no random attack. Someone knew exactly how to hurt him. Someone knew exactly what to threaten. The baby wailed again. He pressed his hand over its tiny chest. The sound seemed to echo through his bones. He had once lived with fear for himself. Now he felt fear for them, for the life he had abandoned. Emma slowly rose, adjusting her posture. Her eyes locked on his, a mixture of accusation and defiance. "You're still poison, Lucas," she said, her voice low but sharp. "And now it's spreading to my world." He wanted to ask about the child, about the blue eyes that mirrored his own. He wanted to reach out, but before he could speak, her bodyguards formed a human wall between them. Her distance was deliberate, calculated, protective. Lucas's mind raced. Who had orchestrated this? What was the message behind the bullets, behind the shattered glass, behind the chaos? He traced possibilities like spider webs in the dark. Every path led to danger. The chandelier above swayed slightly, remnants of the earlier shots. Faint light bounced off the shards on the floor. He noted every detail. The angles of shattered crystal, the positions of frightened guests, the escape routes. Nothing went unnoticed. His hands tightened around the shell casing. The weight was symbolic. It was not just metal, it was a calling card, a declaration of intent. Lucas's instincts screamed. The shooter wasn't finished. The threat wasn't random. It was personal. He crouched lower, assessing. Every footstep sounded like a drumbeat in his ears. Every whisper from the terrified crowd was amplified. Every heartbeat of the baby seemed synchronized with his own. Emma's eyes never left his. Silent words passed between them. She was warning him. She was testing him. She was telling him to be careful. The baby's cry slowed, soothed partially by her gentle rocking. Lucas's chest burned again, not with rage this time, but something heavier, sharper, and undeniable. Guilt, love, fear, all tangled together. He swept his gaze across the room. The grand hall, opulent and dangerous, was now a maze. Every exit was monitored. Every shadow was suspect. Every face was a potential traitor. He felt it before he saw it, a faint engraving, almost invisible, on the shell casing. He squinted. The familiar sharp lines of initials, carved by hand. He felt bile rise. He recognized the letters immediately. His brother's initials. The blood in his veins froze. Betrayal had a new name, and it was one he had never expected. The crowd began to murmur again. Fear rippled through them. Lucas ignored them. The world had narrowed to one point. The initials on that casing. Emma stepped closer to the baby, her shadow falling over the debris-strewn floor. She was calm, but the tension around her radiated danger. Lucas noted every detail. The slight trembling of her hand, the set of her jaw, the flare of her nostrils. She was ready. He had seconds to act, seconds to decide how to respond, seconds to prevent further disaster. Lucas's fists clenched. The baby cried again, piercing and innocent. He pressed a hand to his chest, steadying his racing heart. The chandeliers above swayed as if in warning. The echo of the gunfire lingered in the marble walls. The shattered glass reflected danger in every angle. His brother, the attack, Emma, the baby, the city, the syndicate. Everything was connected. Everything was deliberate. Nothing was accidental. Lucas felt the weight of responsibility crush him. The room had changed, from celebration to battlefield, and he was in the center of it. Every instinct screamed for retaliation. Every thought screamed for protection. Every nerve screamed for survival. He considered his options. He considered his allies. He considered the path of revenge and the path of forgiveness. But first, he had to understand the message. He had to find the sender. He had to survive the night. The murmurs grew louder. The crowd shifted nervously. Someone reached for a phone. Someone moved toward an exit. Lucas ignored them. He focused on the casing. His brother's initials burned in his mind. He felt the betrayal like a knife in his chest. Every thought returned to Emma, to the baby, to the life he had abandoned, to the choices he had made. He could see the trajectory of danger, the ripples of chaos spreading from that first shot, and he knew that nothing would ever be the same. The room felt smaller, tighter, alive with threat. Every shadow seemed to move. Every breath carried weight. Every heartbeat marked time running out. Lucas's fists unclenched slowly. He pressed the casing to his palm, feeling the cold steel. It was a symbol. It was a challenge. It was a warning. Emma's gaze never left him. Her hand tightened on the baby. She didn't trust him. She couldn't. He understood. And yet, he couldn't stop himself. He wanted to reach for her. He wanted to reach for the child. But he had to survive first. He had to find the traitor. He had to confront the brother who had crossed him. The ballroom was still alive with chaos. The remnants of gunfire echoed faintly. The scent of fear lingered in the air. Lucas King was not a man to back down. He would not be destroyed in his own hall. He would not be betrayed without consequence. And he would not lose the woman and child again. He slipped the casing into his pocket. Every nerve in his body was on fire. Every thought was a strategy. Every instinct screamed one truth. The night was far from over. A shadow moved in the far corner, silent, calculated, deadly. Lucas noticed it instantly. He tensed. The traitor was here, watching, waiting. And now, he knew the betrayal ran deeper than he had ever imagined. Lucas's eyes narrowed. His voice, a low growl, only he could hear. If it's you, I will find you, and you will regret ever crossing me. The city skyline glimmered beneath Lucas's office, but tonight, its lights felt cold, distant, almost hostile. He leaned against the tall window, watching neon reflections ripple across the glass. Every reflection seemed to mirror the chaos inside him. His mind churned, calculating, planning, analyzing every betrayal. Adrian King, his brother, his blood, and yet, the person he feared most. Adrian had always been different, charming, patient, calculating. Where Lucas was fire, Adrian was ice. Where Lucas acted on instinct, Adrian anticipated. Where Lucas relied on loyalty, Adrian manipulated it. Tonight, Lucas realized something terrifying. That ice was cracking. The foundation they had built together, trust, power, blood, was fracturing. He walked through the dimly lit corridors of the King estate. Marble floors reflected his polished shoes. The walls echoed with silence, punctuated only by his steps. Every shadow seemed to watch him, every corner hiding secrets. Adrian's office was at the very top, a glass tower above the city, overlooking everything he controlled. The office was immaculate, a minimalist display of wealth and power, no traces of emotion, no signs of weakness. But Lucas could sense the tension in the air. He entered without knocking. Adrian was already there, standing by the window, hands clasped behind his back. He didn't turn immediately. He knew Lucas would come. He had expected him. Lucas's voice was low, precise. Why? One word, weighted with accusation anger, and disbelief. Adrian turned slowly, a faint smile on his lips. "You think I'd waste a bullet on you?" "Not yet," he said. His tone was smooth, calm, unreadable. The words carried no threat, yet every syllable dripped with challenge. Lucas felt a chill, not from fear, from recognition, the subtle power shift. The brother who had always been beside him was now across the line. He studied Adrian, every twitch, every blink, every slight gesture. The man was calm, deliberate, but something in his eyes, something Lucas couldn't place. A secret, a plan, a betrayal waiting to unfold. "You're hiding something," Lucas said, his voice steady, controlled, but sharp. Adrian's smile widened, almost imperceptibly. "Maybe," he replied, "or maybe you've just forgotten how to read me." The room felt smaller. The walls pressed in. The hum of the city below seemed distant, irrelevant. Only the tension between the two men existed. Lucas considered his options: attack, confront, wait. Every instinct screamed caution. But pride, rage, and love for the Empire demanded action. Adrian moved toward his desk, slow, deliberate, hands resting on the polished wood. Every step measured, every breath controlled. Lucas's eyes followed. Every detail mattered. He had been trained for betrayal. But even training could not prepare him, for blood turned cold. They circled each other in silence. No words were needed. The history, the grudges, the shared victories, all hung heavy in the air, a storm waiting to break. Adrian finally spoke. "You think the world belongs to you because you wear the crown," he said softly. "But power isn't just taken, Lucas. It's inherited. It's understood. And sometimes, it's stolen." Lucas felt the punch in those words. Not just about the Empire, about Emma, about the child, about everything he had lost because of his own decisions. Adrian's smile was infuriating, calm, knowing, confident. The kind of confidence that comes from always being 10 steps ahead. Lucas clenched his fists. He forced himself to remain composed. Control was his weapon, patience, his ally. He took a step back, letting Adrian see his restraint. "You've crossed a line," Lucas said. "You don't get to play both sides." Adrian tilted his head, almost amused. "Crossed a line?" he whispered. "You've been blind for too long. Everything you call loyalty, I've called opportunity." The tension in the room was a living thing. Lucas could feel it coil around him, press against his chest. Every heartbeat was amplified, every breath a challenge. He turned toward the door, a temporary retreat. He needed time to think, to plan, to anticipate the next move. As he descended the staircase, the city stretched out beneath him, a battlefield of neon lights and shadows. The empire he had built with his blood, sweat, and ruthlessness now seemed fragile. One wrong move, and it could all crumble. Back in the privacy of his study, Lucas's phone buzzed. An unknown number, a message. He opened it. A photograph appeared. Emma's baby. The tiny face, pale and delicate, eyes wide and familiar. The caption, "He deserves his real father." Lucas's chest tightened. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Questions screamed inside his mind. Who sent this? Why now? And most importantly, what did Adrian know? The city lights flickered through the blinds. The Empire felt colder than ever. His heart beat faster. A storm of regret, rage, and fear churned inside him. He stared at the photo. The baby's eyes, blue and piercing, mirrored his own. A life he had ignored, a bond he had abandoned. The truth was undeniable. Someone was manipulating him. Someone knew exactly how to hurt him. And now, that manipulation had a face. Lucas's mind raced through possibilities. His instincts screamed danger. Every plan, Every strategy, every alliance, now had a question mark. The weight of the empire pressed down. The threat of betrayal loomed larger. Adrian's shadowed intentions haunted him. He pressed his hand to his forehead. His jaw clenched. The city outside shimmered, oblivious to the war brewing above. Every corner, every shadow, every whisper could be a trap. He had to anticipate. He had to survive. He had to reclaim control. The photograph burned in his mind. The words echoed. He deserves his real father. Lucas's resolve hardened. No hesitation, no mercy, no failure. He needed answers. He needed the truth. And he needed Emma. The storm was coming. The war for blood, power, and redemption had begun. Every instinct told him. This night would not end quietly. This night would change everything. He clenched his fists, feeling the weight of the crown and the sins he carried. The enemy was close. The betrayal was deeper than he could imagine. A shadow flickered across his window, silent, precise, threatening. Lucas's blue eyes narrowed, and then a new message arrived. No number, no sender, just a single line of text. "You're too late, Lucas. He's not the only one who needs a father." Lucas's breath caught. His hand hovered over the phone. His empire, his blood, and the woman he once loved, all in jeopardy. He whispered through gritted teeth, "Show yourself before I make you regret it." Lucas King's car slid through the rain-slicked streets, the city lights blurring into streaks of neon and shadow. Every turn, every reflection on the wet asphalt reminded him of choices he could never undo. The message burned in his mind. Cryptic, taunting, intimate. Somebody wanted him to remember. Somebody wanted him to hurt. He drove past familiar streets, streets that once held laughter, whispers, and fleeting love. Back when the world had seemed simple, when Emma's hand had fit perfectly in his, back when he had still believed he was untouchable. The hotel loomed ahead, a faded elegance in the heart of the city. Once, it had been their sanctuary. Now, it was a time capsule, a mausoleum of mistakes. The valet barely looked at him. This was a place forgotten by the world, but not by him. He entered through the revolving doors, the scent of aged wood and mildew mixing with faint traces of perfume. Emma's perfume, the ghost of it. It clung to the hallway like a memory, sweet, sharp, impossible to ignore. The elevator hummed quietly, carrying him to the floor he and Emma had chosen so many nights ago. The floor numbers seemed heavier now, each click of the mechanism a reminder of the years lost. He stepped out, scanning the corridor. It was silent, still, untouched. The room door stood at the end, polished brass handle gleaming faintly under the dim hallway lights. He approached cautiously. Every instinct told him danger was near. Every nerve screamed vigilance. But curiosity and dread pushed him forward. He slid the key card from his pocket, hesitated for a heartbeat, and then tapped it. The lock clicked, and the door swung open. Dust motes floated in the soft light. The air was heavy, carrying the scent of a past he had abandoned. The room was frozen in time. Their room. The bedspread was untouched. The curtains hung as they had decades ago. Even the faint imprint of her body on the mattress lingered like a whisper. He stepped inside slowly. Each footstep echoed. The silence was a tangible thing, pressing against him. It was a silence filled with ghosts, with mistakes, with things he could never undo. On the desk, an envelope waited. Simple, white, unmarked. His fingers trembled slightly as he picked it up. The weight of what it might contain pressed on him, like lead. He opened it carefully, almost reverently. Inside, a single sheet of paper. their old marriage certificate. The ink faded, the paper yellowed, but the significance was undiminished. It was proof of promises broken, of love abandoned, of a life he had destroyed. Beneath the certificate, a single line was scrawled, jagged, deliberate. "You left more than love behind." The words hit him like a punch to the chest. More than love. Destruction, pain, loss. Every memory of Emma, every choice he had made, came crashing back. Leaving her hadn't just been betrayal. It had been devastation. Lucas sank into the chair by the desk. He ran a hand through his hair, closing his eyes. Regret burned through him, hotter than any rage. He had chased power, wealth, empire, and in doing so, he had lost everything that had mattered. His mind raced, replaying their moments together. The stolen kisses in hotel corridors, the laughter in the rain, the nights spent wrapped in each other's arms, believing love was enough. All of it destroyed by ambition, by pride, by selfishness. A quiet thought crept in. Someone didn't just want him to remember. Someone wanted him to suffer, to feel the weight of every mistake he had ever made. He scanned the room again, noticing details he had overlooked. The faint mark of her lipstick on a coffee cup, the indentation in the carpet where he had once stood, the subtle curl of a curtain she had tied back. Every element of the room was a reminder of intimacy lost. Lucas leaned over the desk, studying the handwriting. Familiar, deliberate, painful. It was a signature of the past. A finger pointed at his failures. His instincts flared. This wasn't just a message. It was a challenge, a call to action. Someone wanted him to confront what he had abandoned. He rifled through the envelope again. There were no fingerprints, no overt clues. Only one small detail caught his eye. A faint emblem stamped at the corner. He bent closer. The logo. Her company's logo. The realization hit him like a sledgehammer. She was behind this. Emma. She had orchestrated this reminder. She had planned it all. 1,000 emotions collided in his chest. Anger, guilt, desire, fear, all mixed with the familiar ache of longing. She was powerful. She had grown stronger, sharper. No longer the woman he could manipulate or control. She had taken everything he had left behind and built herself into something untouchable. And now, she wanted him to face it, to relive the past, to feel the destruction he had caused. Lucas's hands curled into fists. The weight of the empire, the betrayal, and the child pressed down on him. He knew that confronting her would not be simple. It would not be easy. It would be dangerous. He moved to the window, staring down at the rain-slicked streets below. The city carried on, oblivious to the storm brewing in this hotel room. Everything he had built, everything he had destroyed, now converged here. His mind raced through possibilities. What had she planned? What did she want from him? And what role would the baby play in this reckoning? Lucas pressed the certificate to his chest. It felt heavier than any weapon he had ever held. It was a reminder of his failings, a call to action, a symbol of everything he had lost and everything he might yet reclaim. He traced the edges of the logo with his fingers. Her power, her will, her brilliance. She was challenging him, testing him, pushing him toward confrontation. Every instinct told him she had planned more than a message. There was strategy here, intelligence, design. This was not just a warning. It was a trap. Lucas's pulse quickened. The memory of her face flashed before him. The fire in her eyes, the strength she now carried, the child she protected. He knew one truth. Approaching her would not be simple. Every step would be watched, every move anticipated, every breath could carry danger. The room seemed to shrink around him. The air was thick with tension, anticipation, and unspoken threats. He could feel her presence even when she was not there. A sudden noise, a faint click near the door, drew his attention. He turned sharply. The hallway was empty, but he felt the weight of eyes on him, watching, calculating, waiting. Lucas exhaled slowly. This night had become a battlefield. The past and present collided with lethal precision. Emma had drawn him in, and he was already trapped. The envelope, the certificate, the logo, each was a thread in a web he could not yet see, and every thread led back to her. He realized the confrontation he feared was inevitable. The reckoning was coming. He would have to face her, and he would have to face himself. A shadow moved outside the window, a faint silhouette against the neon glow of the city. Lucas's blue eyes narrowed. Every muscle tensed. The storm outside mirrored the storm inside him. Rain hammered the windows. Lightning split the sky. And he knew this was only the beginning. Lucas's fingers tightened around the certificate. He whispered to himself, voice low and lethal, "She wants me back, but I will not go quietly. I will find her, and this time I decide the terms." The city lights stretched below Emma's penthouse, like a constellation of secrets. Rain tapped softly against the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting shadows that danced across the sleek marble floors. Lucas King stood in the entryway, the cold bite of the night following him inside. Every step toward her was measured, precise, heavy with intent. He didn't shout. He didn't storm. Silence was his weapon, his threat, his demand. "You're sending me reminders now?" His voice was low, deliberate, carrying the weight of years, power, and unspoken pain. Emma didn't flinch. Her stance was unwavering, her gaze sharp, deliberate. "You erased me, Lucas," she said. "I'm just returning the favor." The words hit like a blade, slicing through layers of pride and denial. She was no longer the woman he had left behind. She was sharper, smarter, calculated, every movement precise, deliberate, a storm contained within porcelain skin. The penthouse felt smaller suddenly, more intimate, every shadow a potential threat. Lucas noticed the subtle tension in her shoulders, the controlled breathing, the faint tremor in her hand as she cradled the baby. The child's soft cry pierced the air, small, urgent, impossible to ignore. For a fraction of a second, Emma's mask slipped. Her eyes softened, her lips quivered. The woman who had once loved him flickered through the armor she now wore so naturally. Lucas stepped closer. The scent of her perfume, familiar, haunting, pulled him back to nights of whispered promises and secret rendezvous. "You don't need to hide behind this power," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. But she didn't lower her guard. She couldn't. The baby's cry grew louder. Lucas's chest tightened. A life he had abandoned, a life he had ignored, now a tangible reminder of everything he had lost. He studied the child's tiny features, the curve of his lips, the small, delicate hands, the pale skin against Emma's arms, and then he saw them, the eyes, the piercing blue eyes that mirrored his own, a spark of the past, a reflection of his blood. "Is he mine?" Lucas asked, voice tight, dangerous, desperate. The question hung in the air like smoke. Her silence was louder than any answer. She didn't speak. She didn't flinch. Instead, she said, calm, controlled, cutting, "Ask your brother." The words struck him like ice, a dagger to the heart of everything he had believed. His mind raced, calculating, planning, anticipating. What had Adrian done? How far had the betrayal gone? Lucas's pulse surged. Every instinct screamed danger. Every memory screamed regret. Every breath screamed desire to protect what he had once forsaken. He turned sharply toward the doorway, anticipating movement, threat, a reaction. And there, in the shadows, framed by the dim light of the hallway, stood Adrian, calm, confident, deadly, a gun in his hands. The metallic glint reflected in the penthouse light. Adrian's expression was unreadable. Every muscle in his body controlled, every intention hidden beneath a veneer of calm. Lucas froze for a fraction of a second. Every decision he had ever made culminated here. Every choice, every betrayal, every act of ambition and love had led to this confrontation. Adrian stepped forward. The gun never wavered. Every motion deliberate, calculated. Every inch he moved was a test, a challenge, a threat. Lucas's blue eyes narrowed. His hands twitched, ready, instinct honed, every sense alive. He could feel the tension like electricity in the air. Every heartbeat was a countdown. Emma shifted slightly. The baby nestled against her chest. Her eyes flickered between the two brothers. Every muscle coiled. She was ready to defend, to strike, to survive. Adrian's presence was a shadow in the room, a dark threat that could ignite the powder keg at any moment. Lucas's mind raced. Every strategy, every move, every potential outcome flickered like lightning through his thoughts. The city outside seemed to fade, replaced by the intensity of the room, the presence of two men bound by blood, yet divided by betrayal. The storm outside mirrored the storm inside. Thunder rolled in the distance, low and menacing, like a drumbeat counting down the moments before disaster. Lucas's jaw clenched. He didn't speak. Words were useless now. Actions, precision, and instinct would dictate the outcome. Adrian's finger rested lightly on the trigger. The air between them thickened, suffocating, charged with history and hatred. Every breath was a negotiation. Every glance, a warning. Lucas stepped slightly forward, careful, measured. He didn't flinch. He didn't retreat. He met Adrian's gaze. A silent promise, a challenge, a threat. Emma's grip on the baby tightened. The small cry was a heartbeat in the silence, a fragile reminder of what was at stake. Lucas's chest burned with a mix of fear, rage, and an unspoken need to protect. Adrian's lips curved faintly. A smirk, almost imperceptible. Confidence radiated from him. Every inch of his posture screamed dominance, calculation, control. He had planned this moment. He had orchestrated this confrontation. Lucas's mind mapped possibilities. The gun, the child, Emma, the empire. Every outcome weighed against the next. Every movement calculated for survival, strategy, and retaliation. The room seemed to shrink. Every shadow deepened. Every breath stretched taut with tension. The storm outside pounded against the windows, echoing the pounding in Lucas's chest. He could see the reflection of the gun in the polished floor. He could see the resolve in Adrian's eyes. He could see Emma's determination to survive. The seconds stretched, each one a knife, each one a heartbeat, each one a decision that could ignite disaster. Lucas adjusted his stance slightly, ready to move, strike, negotiate, or defend. Every nerve fired, every muscle coiled, every thought focused on one truth. He would protect what was his, at any cost. Adrian's finger tightened on the trigger. Time slowed. The world narrowed to the three of them, the penthouse, in the charged air between predator and prey. Lucas's chest tightened. He could feel the legacy of betrayal, ambition, and love pressing down on him. The stakes had never been higher. The danger had never been more real. The baby whimpered softly, a reminder of innocence, a reminder of blood, a reminder of what Lucas had lost and what he would not lose again. Adrian's eyes flicked briefly toward the baby, then back to Lucas. Every second was a negotiation, silent, deadly, and precise. Every heartbeat was a countdown to chaos. Lucas's mind raced. Every strategy, every tactic, every escape route calculated in a flash. The penthouse, the city below, the storm outside, all became elements in a deadly chess game. Emma's gaze met Lucas's for a brief second. No words were needed. She knew he would not fail, and she knew he would not hesitate. The storm outside intensified, lightning slicing across the sky, illuminating the room in blinding flashes. Thunder shook the windows, echoing the tension inside. Lucas's blue eyes locked on Adrian's. A silent promise passed between them. Blood, betrayal, love, and power all converged in that moment. And then, the world seemed to hold its breath. The trigger finger tightened. Lucas inhaled slowly, every muscle coiled, every nerve alert. And just as the first shot was about to fire, the lights in the penthouse went out completely, plunging the room into darkness. The penthouse was suffocating. Darkness pressed in from every corner, shadows blending with the storm outside. Lucas could hear his own heartbeat, rapid, precise, a drum counting down moments he could not afford to waste. Adrian's gun trembled in the dim light, not from fear, from rage, from betrayal. Every fiber of his body screamed years of resentment, of ambition, twisted into something deadly. "You took everything from me," Adrian's voice hissed, low, venomous. "The empire, the name, and her." Lucas froze. Every instinct flared, every memory sharpened. The words cut deeper than any bullet ever could. Emma's breath caught. Her hand instinctively cradled the baby closer. "Adrian, stop," she whispered, the sound fragile yet commanding. Her eyes flickered between the two brothers, weighing the storm about to break. Lucas's mind raced, connecting fragments he hadn't seen before. Adrian's jealousy, Emma's hesitation, the unexplained glances in the past. It all fell into place, bitter and sharp. The truth hit him like a fist to the chest. Emma and Adrian had known each other long before he had entered her life, before their stolen nights, before the promises, before the marriage he had abandoned. "Tell him," Adrian growled, pressing the gun tighter. The weight of years of rivalry, of envy, of being second in everything, sharpened his voice like a blade. Emma swallowed hard, her lips trembling. I was supposed to marry him," she whispered, her voice breaking through the storm of tension. Her gaze shifted to Lucas. "Until you came." Time slowed. Every detail became magnified. The rain hammered against the windows. The city outside disappeared into blur and sound. The baby's small cry echoed, fragile in the tension-filled room. Lucas's chest tightened. Every word, every secret, every betrayal cut him in ways no gunfire could. Betrayal had been a constant in his life. But this was different. This betrayal was layered, personal, intimate, and cruel. Adrian's jaw tensed. The tremor in his hand grew, not from fear, but from a mixture of pain, anger, and desperation. Years of feeling unseen, unloved, unchosen, had led to this very room, this confrontation, this chaos. Emma's gaze softened momentarily as she glanced at the baby. The life Lucas had ignored, the life Adrian never got to claim, the life that had become the center of every collision between them. Lucas's blue eyes burned. He had faced countless enemies. He had killed, negotiated, and survived, but nothing had prepared him for the raw, personal revelation unfolding in front of him. The penthouse seemed smaller, tighter, suffused with tension. Every breath, every movement, every heartbeat mattered. The storm outside mirrored the storm Inside, thunder cracked. Lightning illuminated the room in fleeting bursts. Lucas's fists clenched, ready for the slightest provocation. Every fiber of his body was alert. Every instinct screamed danger. Every thought weighed the life in his arms, the woman he once loved, and the man who had once been his brother. Adrian's eyes flicked to Emma, then back to Lucas. Pain, longing, anger, and envy all swirled in that gaze. It was a storm that could ignite at any moment. Lucas's mind raced. If he moved, Adrian might fire. If he waited, Adrian might act on impulse. Every second was critical. Every decision could mean life or death. Emma's voice trembled slightly as she spoke again. Adrian, this isn't the way. But her words were drowned in the electric tension, powerless to calm the raging storm. Adrian's grip on the gun tightened. His finger hovered over the trigger. The room felt alive with imminent danger. Every shadow seemed to lean in. Every sound amplified. Lucas took a slow breath. His gaze never left Adrian. Every muscle coiled, ready. Every plan calculated. 1,000 possibilities running through his mind. Emma's hands tightened on the baby. He whimpered softly, sensing the fear in the room. The small sound was a fragile plea amid the looming chaos. Adrian's voice was a hiss now, closer to a growl than speech. You took everything, and now you're here, thinking you can fix it. His hand shook violently. The gun barrel trembled. The weight of his anger, of his jealousy, of his desire for revenge, pushed the weapon forward. Lucas's eyes narrowed. Time compressed. Every heartbeat was a countdown. Every breath could be the last. Emma whispered again, barely audible. Adrian, please. But before anyone could act further, the inevitable happened. A shot rang out, a single, deafening crack that shattered the fragile silence. Lucas's body tensed. Every muscle coiled in reflexive anticipation. But the sound didn't come from Adrian's gun. Adrian staggered backward, clutching his chest. Blood soaked his sleeve, spreading like fire across his tailored suit. The room erupted into chaos. Emma screamed. The baby cried. The storm outside mirrored the chaos within. Lucas lunged forward instinctively, catching Adrian before he hit the ground. The gun clattered to the floor. The metallic ring echoed in the room, blending with the rain and thunder. Lucas's mind raced. Who had fired? How had this happened? Why now? Adrian's lips moved, faint, strained, words barely audible over the storm. You don't understand. Yet, Lucas's blue eyes burned with fury and confusion. Every instinct screamed danger. Every thought screamed betrayal. Emma cradled the baby tighter, her eyes wide, terrified. Lucas felt the weight of the past, present, and future converge in that single, violent moment. The consequences of all choices, his and theirs, now bleeding into reality. The room seemed suspended in time. Lightning flashed, illuminating the horror, the fear, the blood, the regret. Thunder cracked, as if marking the finality of what had just occurred. Lucas's hands pressed against Adrian's wound. His chest burned with adrenaline, rage, and helplessness. He couldn't lose another life tonight. Not hers, not the baby's, not his brother's. Adrian's eyes flicked toward Lucas, a mixture of pain, anger, and something unspoken. A confession trapped behind lips, lost in blood. Lucas tightened his grip. Every instinct screamed urgency. Every thought screamed survival. Emma knelt beside them, trembling. Her hands hovered over Adrian, unsure whether to heal, to defend, to strike. The storm outside roared in crescendo. The penthouse shivered under the electric tension. Lucas's mind raced through possibilities, analyzing every second, every movement. The betrayal had layers deeper than he could anticipate. Every plan needed revision, every trust reevaluation. Adrian coughed weakly, his breath shallow. Lucas's hands pressed harder, trying to stem the flow. "You're not leaving me tonight," Lucas hissed. "You hear me? Not like this." Adrian's eyes flicked to Emma. A silent warning, a message, a confession that didn't need words. "You can't trust anyone, Lucas," he gasped. The words cut sharper than the gunshot. Lucas's mind raced faster than his heart. Every shadow, every whisper, every unspoken truth now threatened to unravel everything he knew. Lightning split the sky again. The rain battered the windows. The penthouse became a storm within a storm. Lucas's gaze locked on Emma's face. Fear, anger, love, and determination swirled there. The stakes had never been higher. And then, in the chaos, a new sound. A faint click, almost imperceptible, from somewhere deeper in the room. Lucas froze. Every muscle tensed. Every instinct screamed danger. Another gun had been cocked, and this time the shooter was not in the room with them. Someone else was watching, waiting, and about to strike. The penthouse was heavy with the aftermath of betrayal and blood. Adrian's body lay sprawled across the marble floor, a dark stain spreading across his tailored suit. Lucas stood frozen, every muscle coiled, every nerve screaming action. The storm outside mirrored the chaos inside. Lightning illuminating the room, thunder rattling the windows, rain lashing like an angry drumbeat. Emma's hands trembled as she lowered the gun. Her eyes, wide and shining with fear, fury, and grief, never left Adrian's body. "He would have killed you," she whispered, voice trembling but resolute. Her words hung in the charged air, a stark reminder of survival and instinct. Lucas's chest tightened. Every heartbeat echoed in his ears, like a drum of war. He had prepared for betrayal, for violence, for blood, but nothing could have prepared him for the storm of emotions coursing through the room. He stepped closer to Emma, his eyes scanning the room for any additional threats. Every shadow, every reflection in the polished floors seemed alive with menace. The city outside had become irrelevant. The war was here, in this room, between blood, loyalty, and survival. The baby stirred in Emma's arms. Lucas froze as the soft cry pierced the silence. The sound was a fragile heartbeat, a reminder of innocence and of what was truly at stake. Lucas's mind raced. Every decision now carried life and death consequences. Emma's gaze met his. The intensity of her fear mirrored in the child she held. "I'll protect him," Lucas whispered, barely audible. A vow more desperate than any words he had spoken before. Even as the world around them began to crumble, he swore to shield what was his blood, his past, and the fragile hope of redemption. Outside, the city trembled under the storm. The DeLucas syndicate had already sensed weakness. Rivals were circling, hunting for the slightest opening. Lucas's empire, built with ruthlessness and fire, now teetered on the edge of chaos. He glanced at the spread of documents on the penthouse table. Plans, contacts, alliances, and weaknesses. Every piece a weapon. Every detail a potential shield or dagger. His mind calculated rapidly, sorting strategy from impulse. He could feel the empire shaking beneath him, trembling like a beast, ready to pounce or fall apart. Emma remained close, her eyes never leaving his. Not out of love, not yet, but out of necessity. Their alliance, fragile and tense, was forged in blood and survival. The child in her arms was the thread binding them. A fragile hope amid chaos. Lucas finally allowed himself a brief moment to study her. The woman who had once been his entire world was now tempered steel. Her hair fell over her shoulders in the dim light, eyes glinting with intelligence, instinct, and an unspoken warning. No softness remained, only precision and readiness. The baby stirred again. Lucas's pulse accelerated. "His name?" he asked, voice low, almost breaking. Emma's gaze met his, wet and determined. "Yes," she whispered. "His name is Leo." The word landed like a thunderclap in Lucas's chest. Leo, a life born from love, betrayal, and survival. A life that was his, in blood and spirit, and yet a life he had no right to claim. Not until now. For a long moment, neither spoke. The storm outside roared. Raindrops pelted the windows. The lights flickered as if mirroring the tension in the room. Every second stretched into eternity. Every heartbeat magnified the fragile peace. Lucas leaned closer. The child cradled in Emma's arms, a symbol of fragile hope amid ruin. "I'll protect both of you," he whispered, voice rough with emotion. "Even if it kills me." Emma's eyes glistened with tears. The vow, the promise, the raw determination in his words reached her. For the first time, she allowed herself a flicker of trust, a fragile alliance, forged not in love, but in necessity and survival. Outside, the DeLucas syndicate shifted. Rivals were positioning, eyes and ears everywhere, waiting for weakness. Every building, every alley, every street could harbor an enemy. The storm was not just outside. It was in every move they would make. Lucas's mind raced. Every ally, every contact, every weapon, every escape route calculated in seconds. Every possibility weighed against survival, vengeance, and reclamation. Every heartbeat mattered. Emma adjusted Leo in her arms, her hands steady now, but eyes vigilant. She had learned to survive, to anticipate, to protect. The child had sharpened her instincts as much as he had sharpened Lucas's. They moved together to the penthouse study, spreading maps and intel across the table. The room smelled of rain and fear. Every paper, every note, every strategy was a shield against an unseen enemy. Hours passed in tense silence. Plans were drawn, movements anticipated. The storm outside abated slightly, but the storm within the city and within the walls of the penthouse raged on. Lucas watched Emma with cautious respect. Her intelligence, courage, and precision were undeniable. Not yet love, not yet trust fully earned, but alliance, forged in survival, was as valuable as any weapon he had ever wielded. Leo cooed softly, oblivious to the tensions around him. Lucas's chest burned with a protective rage, a primal need to shield what was his. Every instinct, honed in decades of violence, screamed vigilance. The night deepened. The city lights reflected off wet streets below, distant and alien. Yet, for Lucas, every window, every balcony, every street could conceal an enemy. Every shadow could be death. Emma finally spoke, her voice low but commanding. "We need to act before they realize we're weak," she said. Lucas nodded. Every word, every decision now carried life and death consequences. They mapped the city's dangers, tracing alliances, anticipating strikes, planning counterattacks. Every detail mattered. Every movement counted. The DeLucas and rival factions were circling like sharks. Lucas finally allowed himself a slow breath. The baby in Emma's arms, the woman who had once been his world, and the empire he had built, all balanced on a knife edge. Every decision from this point forward would define survival, loyalty, and redemption. He glanced toward the window, eyes narrowing at the faint shadows beyond the glass. Every flicker, every reflection could be a threat. Every heartbeat could be the last. Emma adjusted Leo again, glancing toward Lucas. Her eyes betrayed fear. Yes, but also trust, faint and fragile, in the man who had once abandoned her. The storm of past and present collided here, in this room, in the fragile sanctuary of blood and strategy. Lucas placed a hand gently on Leo's tiny head, feeling the weight of life, responsibility, and destiny. The future stretched before them, uncertain, dangerous, and deadly. A sudden, sharp crack shattered the fragile calm. Glass exploded inward as a sniper's bullet crashed through the penthouse window. The sound tore through the night. A warning, a threat, a countdown. Time slowed. Lucas's reflexes ignited. Every muscle tensed. Every instinct screamed. The bullet's trajectory was clear, straight toward Leo's crib. The tiny life that held the key to their fragile alliance now hung in mortal danger. Lucas lunged, instincts sharper than thought, and the world blurred around him as the storm outside mirrored the chaos inside. Would he save Leo in time? Or would the Empire's war claim the innocent first? The sniper's bullet screamed through the air, a deadly whisper that cut through the tension of the penthouse like a blade. Lucas didn't think. He moved. A reflex honed through decades of violence and survival kicked in. Every muscle coiled, every step precise. He lunged toward the crib. The bullet tore through the space he had just occupied. Pain exploded across his shoulder, searing fire that stole his breath. But his body held, carrying him forward, shielding Leo, the fragile heartbeat in his arms. The room erupted into chaos. Glass shattered, raining shards across the marble floor. Emma screamed, her voice cracking under the stress, terror rolling off her in waves. Her grip on Leo tightened as she fell to her knees, tears blurring the storm outside from the storm inside. Lucas's men poured into the room, weapons raised, scanning every shadow. The sniper's presence had vanished, leaving only whispers of danger. The penthouse, once a fortress, now felt fragile, vulnerable, exposed to the world's violence. Lucas collapsed to one knee, the baby safe in Emma's arms. Pain seared through him, each heartbeat a reminder of mortality, of failure, of the price of survival. His blue eyes flickered toward Emma. "Leo, safe," he rasped, voice hoarse, carrying a promise heavier than steel. Emma knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she traced the wound. "You can't keep saving me," she whispered, quiet but filled with weight, truth, and anger. Her eyes, wet with tears and determination, met his. "You can't keep saving us both, Lucas. Not like this." Lucas's head lifted slightly, wincing from the pain. "I'm not saving you," he said, voice tight, low, unyielding. "I'm saving what's left of us." The words were as much a vow as they were a warning. They carried weight, power, and a desperation that was almost palpable. The storm outside intensified, lightning ripping through the night sky, illuminating the penthouse in brief flashes. Thunder rolled like the drums of war, mirroring the chaos inside. Every breath Lucas took was a battle, every heartbeat a countdown to survival. His men secured the room, scanning rooftops and streets, searching for the invisible threat that had nearly claimed a life. Every shadow, every sound, every flicker of movement could be death. Lucas's senses, honed by years of ruthlessness, flickered between instinct and strategy, between calculation and reaction. Hours later, the hospital became their refuge. White walls, sterile lights, the faint beeping of machines, a fragile sanctuary against the chaos outside. Lucas lay in the bed, bandages covering the wounds of bullets and battles, every breath measured. Emma sat beside him, her hand resting lightly on his chest. Her gaze never left his face, the soft rise and fall of his breath, the steady pulse beneath her fingers. "You can't keep doing this," she said again, quieter this time, almost tender. You can't keep risking everything to protect me and him. Lucas opened his eyes slowly. Pain and determination mingled in the icy blue depths. I'm not protecting you, he said again. I'm protecting us. All of it. The past, the present, the future. Whatever we have left, I will protect it, even if it kills me. Emma's eyes glistened, torn between fear and a fragile trust. For the first time in weeks, the walls between them seemed to shift, crack, just enough to let a sliver of hope seep through. Before she could respond, the doctor entered. His expression was tight, careful. He approached Lucas, leaning down to whisper in his ear, then discreetly slipped a folded note into his hand. Lucas's fingers trembled slightly as he unfolded it. The handwriting was precise, clinical, deliberate. His eyes scanned the words, each one sinking like a stone in his chest. You've been poisoned, slow, permanent. Started weeks ago. The room tilted. Emma gasped, clutching Leo closer, her eyes wide with horror. Lucas's mind raced faster than his pulse. Poison, weeks ago. The careful, deliberate destruction hidden in plain sight. He replayed the days in his mind. Each meal, each drink, each toast at the party before the penthouse attack. The pieces fell together like shards of broken glass. The wine, Adrian, the toast, the smile that hid betrayal. Lucas's jaw tightened. Anger flared, cold and lethal. Every ounce of control, every strategy, every instinct told him the truth. The poison had come from the one person he had once trusted the most, his brother. Emma's hand shook as she rested it on his shoulder. Lucas, what does it mean? She whispered, barely audible. His eyes, hard and cold, met hers. It means, he said slowly, deliberately. The war isn't over, not even close. And Adrian played us both from the start. The room fell silent, save for the faint beeping of monitors and the distant rumble of the storm outside. Every shadow seemed alive, every corner a potential threat, every whisper a reminder of betrayal. Lucas's hands clenched into fists under the sheets. Pain radiated from his shoulder, from the poison, from the weight of betrayal. But his mind was sharp, calculating, cold. Every plan, every move, every ally and enemy considered in a flash. Emma's gaze softened, but fear lingered. The fragile trust, the alliance forged in blood and survival, was tested anew. Lucas was wounded, poisoned, vulnerable, yet still untouchable in his mind, still ruthless in intent. The storm outside began to ease slightly, the rain thinning to a heavy drizzle. But the storm within, the empire, the enemies, the betrayal, had only intensified. Every moment now counted. Every decision would tip the scales between life and death, power and ruin. Lucas's gaze fell on Leo, sleeping softly in Emma's arms. The child was innocence incarnate, a fragile spark amid the dark chaos surrounding them. And Lucas vowed silently, bitterly, that no poison, no bullet, no enemy could touch him without consequence. He unfolded the note again, examining the handwriting, the ink, the implications. The betrayal ran deeper than he had imagined. Weeks of careful planning, hidden threats, and manipulation had gone unnoticed, until now. Emma's hands trembled slightly as she traced the outline of his arm, the bandages, the faint bruises. Lucas reached up, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Eyes locked, words unnecessary. Every emotion, every fear, every unspoken truth conveyed in a single glance. The poison burned in his veins, a reminder of mortality, of weakness, of danger. But his blue eyes, cold and lethal, reflected a promise unbroken. Vengeance would come, power would be reclaimed. The empire, the child, the woman Nothing would be lost again. Lucas closed his eyes briefly, gathering every shred of strength, every ally, every enemy, every weapon, every plan, every betrayal. All became pieces in a deadly puzzle, and now he knew the final moves would be ruthless, precise, and permanent. A distant siren wailed. The hospital walls, normally sterile and protective, felt fragile, temporary. Every shadow could conceal an enemy, every knock on the door a threat. Lucas opened his eyes again, locking onto Emma and Leo. "Nothing will stop me," he whispered, voice tight with determination and fire. "Nothing, and anyone who thinks they can will regret it." A knock echoed sharply against the hospital door. Slow, deliberate, measured. Lucas's eyes narrowed. Every muscle coiled. Every instinct screamed danger. The doctor stepped back, eyes wide with alarm. A shadow fell across the doorway. Familiar, cold, lethal. Lucas's blood ran cold as realization struck. Adrian wasn't acting alone, and whoever this is, they're coming for all of us. Rain lashed against the streets of Chicago like a furious drum, each drop striking concrete with the weight of inevitability. Lucas stepped from the shadows, his tailored suit soaked, water clinging to his skin as if the storm itself sought to punish him. His shoulder throbbed from the sniper's bullet, every heartbeat reminding him that time was a luxury he no longer had. Inside, his vision blurred. Every step sent pain through his body, but he refused to surrender to weakness. Death could wait. Not tonight. Not while Leo breathed. Not while Emma stood at his side. Fragile but fierce. His hands shook, not from fear, but from exhaustion, from the weight of survival pressing down on his chest. Every instinct screamed urgency. Every thought calculated the next move. The city had become a chessboard, each player aware that one wrong step could mean annihilation. The DeLucas syndicate awaited, ruthless, calculating and confident that the king was on his knees. Lucas knew the stakes. Emma's life, Leo's life, his empire, his legacy, all teetered on the edge of a knife. He had one final move, a gamble, razor-sharp and deadly, a plan that would demand every ounce of strength he had left. Lucas arranged the meeting in a private room, a neutral ground soaked in cold light. The DeLucas arrived, their suits immaculate, eyes predatory, hands brushing subtly against weapons. They believed they controlled the board. They believed he was poisoned, weak, and desperate. They believed he had no leverage. Lucas's gaze was calm, unyielding, his blue eyes steel in the dim light. Every movement deliberate, every breath measured. He poured the wine, the same bottle that had been meant for him weeks ago, into their glasses. His hands were steady, despite the slow burn of poison crawling through his veins. The DeLucas raised their glasses with smug confidence. "To the king's surrender," one sneered, the words dripping with arrogance. Lucas's lips curved into the faintest of smiles, almost imperceptible. He nodded, playing the role of the defeated, the dying man. "Drink," he said softly, voice low, controlled, lethal in its calm. They did. The wine glinted like red fire in the dim light as they sipped, believing they had sealed his fate. Lucas waited, every muscle coiled, every nerve alight, every second stretched as the poison began to take its effect. A slow, deliberate undoing for those who thought to end him. Sweat mixed with rainwater dripping from his hair as he staggered slightly, feigning weakness. The DeLucas leaders faltered, confusion flickering across their faces as the effects of the poison hit. Panic replaced arrogance. The hunter became the hunted. Lucas's vision narrowed, pain radiating from his veins, his shoulder throbbing, each heartbeat a hammer against his skull. But he pushed forward, one careful step at a time, every move calculated, every word a trap. The DeLucas began collapsing, one by one, their confident facades crumbling as the tables turned. Chaos erupted in the room, voices screaming, bodies stumbling. The empire that had thought him defeated, now writhing in their own hubris. Lucas staggered to the exit, barely maintaining balance, the rain outside washing over him like baptism and punishment combined. His lungs burned, every breath ragged, but the knowledge that Emma and Leo were safe filled him with a fragile, burning triumph. Minutes later, Emma appeared through the downpour, running toward him. Her hair clung to her face, wet and wild, eyes wide with fear and disbelief. "Lucas," she cried, voice breaking, tears mingling with the rain. "Why didn't you tell me?" He smiled weakly, every ounce of energy drained from his body, every movement a testament to survival and defiance. "Because," he whispered, voice raspy but firm, "if I did, you'd never let me go." Emma's hands grasped his shoulders, shaking him gently, disbelief etched into her face. She searched his eyes for hope, for life, for truth, and in that gaze, she found the fierce resolve of the man she once loved, the man who had never surrendered, even when death had whispered in his ear. Lucas's body wavered in the rain, the poison in his veins a slow burn, a reminder that victory carried a cost. He could feel the storm of betrayal, power, and survival crashing through him, threatening to undo everything he had fought to protect. Emma pulled him close, shielding him as if her arms alone could ward off the consequences of his choices. The baby slept safely nearby, oblivious to the chaos that had defined the night. Every heartbeat of Lucas's reminded him of the fragility of life, the cost of power, and the price of empire. The streets around them were empty, the storm masking distant cries, distant conflicts, distant threats. But Lucas knew better. Enemies lurked in every shadow, in every whisper, in every street corner. The battle was won tonight, but the war was far from over. He swayed, leaning against Emma, every muscle trembling. Pain burned through his veins. Blood mingled with rainwater, streaking his face, washing away the night's violence, leaving only raw, human vulnerability. Emma's hands trembled as she traced the cuts on his face, the blood, the exhaustion. "Lucas," she whispered, a fragile anchor in a world of chaos. "You can't do this alone." He shook his head, a faint, pained smile on his lips. "I never do," he said softly, voice barely above the storm. "I only fight for them. For you. For Leo." Every step, every breath, every heartbeat was a testament to survival, to the ruthless calculation that had allowed him to turn the tables. But the poison coursing through his veins reminded him, even kings have limits. The storm outside began to ease slightly, yet the air remained heavy with danger. Every droplet of rain glinted like steel, every shadow seemed alive, and every echo of the city whispered threats. Lucas sank to his knees, finally letting the weight of exhaustion hit. Emma knelt beside him, pressing her forehead to his, the rain cascading over them both. For a moment, silence reigned. The empire had survived the night. The child was safe. The woman he loved, fragile and fierce, was still here. But Lucas knew the truth. The poison would not forgive. The DeLucas threat might be neutralized, but enemies still lurked. Betrayal had layers, and the cost of power was not yet paid in full. Emma whispered again, voice trembling, "Lucas, stay with me, please." He smiled faintly, pain and determination warring in his eyes. "I will," he promised, but every fiber of his body screamed that the next move could be the last. Lucas's vision blurred completely as his knees buckled. The rain washed blood from his face, but the truth hit him like a hammer. The poison was permanent, and the fight for his life and the Empire was only just beginning. Months had passed since the chaos, the bloodshed, and the poison that had nearly claimed Lucas King. The city had healed, or at least learned to live with its scars. But for Emma, healing meant more than survival. It meant purpose. Tonight, she stood in the grand ballroom of the newly inaugurated Leo Foundation, a charity she had built in honor of her son, a beacon of hope amid a world of darkness. Dressed in pure white, her hair pinned elegantly, Emma moved through the crowd with a calm precision that belied the storm of emotions she carried beneath the surface. The city's elite murmured her name, whispers no longer of fear, but respect. Power, she realized, could be wielded differently, with vision, compassion, and quiet strength. Guests offered polite congratulations, smiles, handshakes, polite laughter, but Emma's mind drifted to the past, to betrayal, violence, love lost and regained, and a man who had once been the axis of both her pain and her passion. The crowd began to thin. The music softened to a background hum, the chatter fading. Emma moved toward the balcony, seeking air, space, clarity. Her steps faltered. Time seemed to pause. There, against the backdrop of the city lights, a figure stood. The scars of battles, the fading bruises of survival, etched lightly against his strong frame, yet his presence commanded the world itself to still. Lucas, alive, Emma's breath caught. The city could whisper in fear and gossip, but nothing could prepare her for the man who had burned kingdoms, survived poison, and returned from the brink of death. His blue eyes, brighter than ever, locked with hers. There was fire there, yes, but also something softer, something tender, vulnerable, real. He stepped closer, each movement measured yet effortless. The rain of months behind him now replaced by a calm, dangerous confidence. "Emma," he said, voice rough, gravelly from months of survival and silence, "I burned my kingdom for you." His words carried the weight of empires destroyed, of men who had fallen, of pain endured silently. "All I want now," he added, softer this time, almost a whisper, "is a life." Emma exhaled slowly, trembling, but steadying herself. Her hand rested on the balcony rail, as if bracing for an earthquake of emotion. "No more blood, Lucas," she said quietly, voice firm, yet filled with lingering fragility. Her eyes glistened with unspoken fears, with memories of battles fought, betrayals endured, nights spent wondering if she would ever hold him again. Lucas nodded, stepping fully into the balcony light, the cityscape glittering behind him. "No more blood," he promised, his words a vow, a redemption, a future. The soft strains of music drifted from the ballroom behind them. It was the same song that had played the night they had first truly seen each other. The night fate had begun weaving their entwined story. Memories, sharp and sweet, rose to the surface. Pain, longing, heartbreak, and survival all converged in a single heartbeat between them. Lucas extended his hand, hesitant for a heartbeat, then confident, firm, unyielding. Emma placed hers in his, the touch electric, filled with all the weight of everything lost and everything regained. They began to dance, slow, deliberate, letting the music carry them. The city lights reflected in their eyes, the moonlight washing over them like forgiveness. Every step, every movement, every glance was a testament to survival, to love tested and hardened by fire, betrayal, and danger. No words were needed. Every heartbeat, every brush of hand against hand, every sigh spoke volumes. They had loved, lost, survived, and returned. Together, the ballroom music continued to drift outside, almost as if the city itself had paused to watch them. The night air held a scent of rain and roses, the faint echo of gunfire and whispers of the past replaced by the quiet of resolution. Emma rested her head lightly against Lucas's shoulder, feeling the steady rise and fall of his chest. The man who had once been chaos incarnate now held her with tenderness, with patience, with the promise of a future they had fought tooth and nail to survive. Lucas's hand brushed against her hair, then against Leo's photo she carried in her locket. A smile, small and weary, curved his lips. "I'll keep them safe," he murmured, voice soft but unwavering. "Every moment, every breath, every night, I swear it." Tears pricked Emma's eyes. But they were not only tears of sorrow. They were relief, recognition, and a fragile hope that had been forged in fire. They danced, swaying to the music, letting it carry them, letting it carry away the ghosts of past betrayals, the scars of violence, and the weight of empires, lost and reclaimed. For a moment, time stood still. For a moment, nothing existed outside the two of them, and the fragile life they had survived to protect. Lucas whispered, voice low and intimate, "Emma, no more running, no more hiding, no more fear." Her hand tightened in his. "No more blood," she repeated, this time with certainty, her eyes locking with his. The music swelled, the city lights shimmered, and the world, for the first time in years, felt quiet, fragile, and safe. They continued to dance, holding each other close, hearts beating in unison, the weight of past sins melting away in the warmth of their embrace. Everything they had endured, the betrayal, the poison, the guns, the chaos, had led them here, to this quiet, delicate, dangerous peace. And as they moved together, the final echo of the song carried through the night. It was a song of survival, of love, of battles won and battles still to come. Lucas lifted his eyes to hers, voice soft, filled with both determination and redemption. In a city ruled by sins, we chose love, and for the first time, it didn't destroy us. The camera of their lives pulled back slowly, leaving them framed in moonlight, rain-soaked streets below, the city buzzing with life, unaware of the fragile kings and queens who had carved their own destiny in blood and fire. And though the storm outside had passed, the shadow of the empire still lingered. Lucas and Emma knew the fight for peace, for family, for legacy, was never truly over. But in that moment, in that final dance, they had won. The night air wrapped around them, soft and unforgiving, a reminder that love, even in darkness, could endure. As they swayed together, a distant siren wailed, piercing through the quiet. From the shadowed streets below, a silhouette paused, watching them. Lucas's eyes flicked toward it, blue steel glinting in the moonlight. Even in victory, the city's sins whispered, "The past never truly dies, and the empire still calls your name."